I should probably replace that, right? Good morning. This coming Sunday, the 20-something of whatever month this is the biggest car show of the year, which isn't saying much because there hasn't been any car shows. Anyway, it's the Unfinished Nationals at Flamborough Speedway. So I've got a few jobs I need to get done in Bugsy before we go. And obviously, from the clip at the start, you will have seen that one of my 4 U-joints is a bit wonky. I've got a new one. Spent a bit more money this time, and this one feels much tighter. The other one, when I got it brand new, was basically flopping about, but this is nice and tight. So this should do the job better than that one. Other things I have to do, I've sort of decided on paint. I'll talk about that at the end. And also I have a transmission mount issue to sort. That was a bit of a shock when I discovered a couple of bolts were missing the other day. But I have a plan. Anyway, let's get this done first. It's not as easy as just taking out 4 Allen bolts. I have to actually remove the whole steering column to be able to get access. Anyway, enough waffle, let's go on with it. Okay, so I don't have to completely remove my steering column, but I do have to be able to move it back about 1 inch. So I've got that little 10mm bolt on a clamp that I need to just undo both sides, and also the 2 bolts behind this cover. On my big U clamp, I need to get access to the inside of that, loosen them off, and then hopefully I'll just move the whole thing back. However, before I do that, it would make sense to loosen off these little wee Allen bolts that are holding it on tight, because once the steering column is loose, that's going to be flopping about. So I'll do that first, get the inside loose, and then hopefully just pull the whole thing that way, and I'll be able to get access to remove that. So that thing's loose, you can see it moving about now. I just need to get inside and be able to pull it back about 1 inch, and the thing will come off. So we just have a couple of 10mm nuts holding this little clamp around the bottom of the steering shaft. One at that side, one at the other side that I can't see from here. I need to just do it by feel. Okay, so they're nice and loose. So just the 2 bolts holding on that big U-clamp at the top of the shaft. And because I've not actually got this wired up, I could probably just pull this out and get access from the top rather than try to fiddle about underneath. That's much easier. Bolt's just in there. With a bit of luck, I'll only have to loosen off one side because it's a U-clamp. If I loosen off this side, it's going to create enough looseness, hopefully. But you know what, I've got access to the other one if I need to. Let's find out. Yeah, it's still a wee bit tight. I'll loosen the other one. Okay, so the whole thing should now move out. It's a wee bit stuck at the bottom. because it's got a rubber seal. Well, it's got a sort of rubber boot that it sits in there, so it's a wee bit oh, I forgot to do one. There's one at the top there, which is actually holding it in tight. In there, just another 10mm. I'll get that done. Okay, that one's now loose. In fact, that is probably the only one that I had to remove at the bottom. These ones are just attaching that clamp to the base plate clamp, if you like. So that's loose, so now it should come out, unless I've forgotten something else. There we go, that's all I need to bring it out. So I'm not having to disturb all my wiring to my signal switch. Right, let's go and grab that universal joint and see how bad it is. Here we go. Let's go inspect. So let's see. That's moving side to side. Shouldn't do that. So this one isn't moving, but this one is. So in there, it's obviously, you can see the gap in there. So, I mean, I could like clamp these two sides closed, but I don't want to mess with the structural integrity. Right, let's see how this compares with the new one. I was also concerned that I wasn't getting full articulation because this section here was hitting off down there. I did actually grind that a little bit just to give it a bit more clearance because it was like stopping there. Anyway, let's grab the other one. So this one hopefully is the same length. It is. Let's compare how much movement it's got. So that's that at full angle there. This one, oh, look at the difference there. Yeah, and I think that is what caused the problem with this one. It wasn't going round as far as it should, and this was actually hitting off of that wall and stretching it out on both sides. I mean, obviously I'm not going to be using it at that sort of angle, but it had to be more than that one, and I'm pretty sure that's what caused the damage. Excellent. This should just fit right on then. Install is reverse of destall. So of course it didn't just fit right on. I had to remove my steering column and just grind down the end of the steering shaft because it had mushroomed a little bit and it wasn't, the U-joint wasn't slipping over it. Anyway, it's done now. Just let you see the difference now. No movement at all. I do have a little bit of movement in these little swivelly joint things, but they just need a bit more grease packed inside and we'll be good. But that should make a big difference to the feel of the steering, because I was getting a little bit of slack left and right. Right, it's time for Dave's confessional. Do you remember when I was doing my Speedo bullet replacement? While I was underneath the car, I noticed I was missing two bolts. Two kind of important bolts. Two bolts that held my transmission on at the back. Gone. Now luckily, my transmission is there, and I've got a plate that is bolted on the underside, on either side of the frame rails, okay? Between the transmission, that there was a rubber bush there, and then you've got your plate, and then the underside another rubber bushing with the bolt going through like so. So rubber bushing, plate, rubber bushing to absorb all the vibration. Anyway, bolts were gone, and as I say, lucky, because the transmission was still sitting on top of that plate, wasn't going anywhere. I have no idea how long they were missing. Now, I wasn't going to bother telling anyone this, but I think it's just as important, possibly even more important, to tell you when you do something, or when I do something wrong, so that you don't do what I did. All I really had to do was put some thread lock in these bolts, tighten them up, and we're good. Or I could have done some sort of wire link between the two bolts. So I'm going to use some thread locker. I might even do some little captive washer things that you fold over. So I got on with that. Anyway, just thought I'd let you know. I'm not perfect, obviously. If a job's worth doing, it's worth doing 3 times. Okay, let's talk about paint again. The truth is, I really like this look, and even this look, but I don't like that look, or that look, or that red oxide look. So here's my plan. I want to try and remove the red oxide. The rust is easy enough to get rid of, but it's that red oxide that's ingrained in the metal. And once I get rid of that, then I can fill all the little cracks with maybe a dark silver paint, but then sand over it so that it's only the little cracks that are no longer red oxide, they're actually like dark silver or whatever. And hopefully I'll get this sort of look all over the car instead of this patchwork that I've got at the moment. Now, Alan at Hooks Rods recommended that I could, soak a big rag, in, I couldn't remember what it was called, some sort of chemical, and basically you leave that over the car, and it's kind of like paint stripper, but on a cellular level, And once I can get the red oxide out of the metal, then I can work on trying to make the whole thing more uniformed with either a very slight tint of paint and then, sand over above the cracks, and try and get that effect all over. That's what I'm thinking of. I would love to do a proper paint job, as you know, but I don't have it in me, not this year at least, so maybe next year. So if you know what sort of chemical either can get the red oxide out or turn it a different colour. No, I need to get the red oxide out first, and then we can work in the next stage. So that's the plan, constantly changing, as you know. Bear with me. I did go for a little drive. Steering is way better. There's no play at all now, which is perfect. The vibration's gone from the transmission. So really just the paint, if I can be bothered doing that before the weekend. Otherwise, we are ready for the unfinished nationals. Could there be a more appropriate car to take? See you in the next one. Bye.